Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Performance Through Health podcast. If this is your first time and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. In this podcast, we talk about all things performance, stress, breathing, sleep, just generally helping people become better individuals and live the life they want to live. Today, I've got Richard Burrows. Rich is he's over in Noosa, Queensland, Australia. He's a oxygen advantage coach, S&C coach, XPT coach. I think he's been doing a lot of work in terms of the breathing space. And if any of you have been watching the MMA fighters at the moment, a lot of them are getting into the pool and doing some kind of breathing work. And Rich does that over in Queensland. And it's something that I've really wanted to learn a bit about. So that's what we're going to delve into today. But Rich, before we jump into that conversation and start talking about that sort of stuff, I guess just a bit of an introduction of how you got into breathing and what performance breathing is about.
Going back to about 2014, 2015, certain influences in my performance life collided. So we had Laird Hamilton, who's always been a hero of mine, big wave surfer, started to do some more, open up the world to his kind of training. He teamed up with Brian McKenzie, who's now shifted out, at the time, power speed endurance. And I just followed a program of Brian's to get myself to a marathon over, a very, probably in hindsight, too short a period. So I was familiar with Brian's work. Laird was a hero, and then they started doing some stuff with Wim Hof as well. And I also just listened to Wim's podcast with Joe Rogan. So these three coming together at that point in time just really piqued my interest and my curiosity in how they're incorporating breathing into their training. So for those who haven't seen any of Laird's stuff, there's a lot of underwater training. And the methodology that developed around XPT, which is extreme performance training, was very much breath-focused and breath-centered. So everything was built upon being able to control your breath, being able to use your breath to change your state, to access energy. And that just really excited me at the time. So the following year, my wife and I were doing a road trip in California and were lucky enough to get involved with one of the very early XPT experiences in Malibu.
Nice.
And they say you should never meet your heroes, but Laird was just an absolute gentleman and had so much time for everyone who was involved. And essentially my first guided breathing session was led by Brian and Laird. So it was a pretty rock star introduction, and it just got me excited to pursue it from there.
I can imagine that was an amazing experience. I mean, watching the XPT stuff, just the clips of it, it looks like an incredible kind of journey that you go on, really to delve in and discover the next level of how far you can push yourself. That's what XPT is about, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you come up with these terminologies, I think in the early days, they landed on extreme performance training, but it's more about the exploration of potential. Yeah,
so I've been delving into some signed up to shift work recently. I've been delving into exploring what they do, and it's like testing that limit. And I love they're more about thinking about the story you start telling yourself. Like, for example, this morning, the training was 12 by 30 second all out sprints with, recovery between, making sure you recover with your breath. And that's a lot of high intensity work. But I had a poor night's sleep. And even before I went into the gym, I was already telling myself stories. I've had a poor night's sleep. I'm not going to be great at this. I'm not looking forward to it. And then by the time I was at the 6th or 7th set, I couldn't hit the distances that I wanted to hit. I couldn't hit the distances that I'd done it when I'd previously done it. And I was like, it's because I've had a poor night's sleep. And you start giving yourself excuses. And I think that's what the likes that Brian and Laird are trying to, I don't know whether Laird actually is delved into that, but Brian himself is trying to really delve into looking at how the story you tell yourself impacts your performance. Have you gone down that route and noticed that in yourself or the clients that you work with as well?
Yeah, certainly noticed it in the pool.
Yep.
And having, a lot of the pool training is obviously underwater, on a breath hold, and the consequences physiologically of any kind of negative thought are just absolutely amplified. So if you've yourself been doing any static apnea work, you know that if you get off on the wrong foot and you let the negative voice creep in, it spirals out of control really quickly.
Yeah.
The same with not so much the static apnea work, but doing dynamic movements underwater or long efforts carrying the heavy weights. If you get ahead of yourself and start to think about the goal, or you give yourself an excuse or an out or a reason why you shouldn't be performing well, then your performance will trail off again. It's just such a brilliant, humbling element, the water, and not being without your breath. It just forces you to stay present, stay in the moment, and just think about executing the skill, and then making the next decision, and not getting ahead of yourself, and not telling yourself negative thoughts and stories as well.
Yeah. I think if that's something that we don't really consider when we're, say, for example, if you're doing a set of exercise and then you're recovering with your breath in between, when you actually have that chance to have the breath, it's almost like you've got the chance to just tell yourself those stories and get yourself ahead of yourself. Whereas if you're under the water and you're actually holding that breath, if you start doing that, then you're going to have to come up. You're not going to be able to finish, right? Because you're going to be, you're going to panic.
Yeah.
So what would you say the main aim with the pool training is? And like, if you were to take someone like a beginner's step through just introducing someone to it, what sort of stuff would you do?
The main aim, we always say, is to have as much fun as possible.
Okay.
When you're down at the aquatic centre and pretty much every other lane is going up and down, staring at the black line, and we're jumping in and out, and we get a lot of looks. And obviously, it's the kind of training that you need to do with somebody, because you shouldn't be training alone in this kind of work. So it's about having fun, and training with other people is I find the magic in that kind of training, which I look forward to the most, and what I enjoy the most is just having fun and trying, being playful.
Yep.
But in terms of what we're looking to achieve with newcomers, it's putting you in a position where you're not going to be very good at something to begin with. Most people can swim reasonably well, but give them a 10-kilo dumbbell and get them to swim from one end of the pool to the other, and most people will not be able to coordinate their movement properly. They'll freak out a little bit because they're sinking, or they'll just think this is totally weird, and they'll fail first up. And failure is a good thing to experience, because you'll come back to the wall, talk through some cues about, okay, how can we improve that? Where is your gaze? Where is the dumbbell positioned to your body? How are we maintaining your streamlined position? Have another go, and then, okay, you're starting to get it. Then you can really dance on the edge between effort and relaxation and calm efficiency, because with the carries in particular, the harder you try, the more you're likely to come unstuck, because as you know, increased tension and metabolic effort has a cost, which is rising levels of carbon dioxide, which is going to jack your stress levels, which will get that feedback loop of high heart rate, high stress, and you won't be able to manage as long. Whereas if you just dance on the edge of giving enough effort, enough speed in the stroke, enough power, but without really tensing up and trying to muscle your way through an effort, that's where the magic in the training happens as well. And you carry that into all other areas of physical movement and training, realizing what's economy of effort, what does efficiency actually feel like, coupled with the mindsets and staying present in the moment, like we talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, probably 3 or 4 months ago, I entered a race where I was doing a run, then I was doing a swim, and then it was a run following. And I've never had kind of like proper swimming lessons. No, my parents taught me to swim, but I'd never actually had any learned how to do any technique or anything like that. And I've been a power individual all my life. I've always like powerlifting, weight training. And as soon as I got in the pool and started having lessons with Guy just to swim, he's just like, relax. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, I am relaxed. Like me thinking like my muscles are relaxed. I'm not tensed up. He's like, well, just feel there. He's like, as soon as he did that, I was like, oh yeah. Like I had to drop my shoulders. And he's like, you can't muscle yourself through swimming. So I imagine it's the same as when you've got a weight in your hand and your balance and coordination's all off. Trying to just muscle yourself through that, it's just, it's not efficient. And you're just going to, like you say, you're going to burn yourself out more, and you're not even going to make it to the other side, let alone finish the workout.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that the guys who come and train with us for the first time, who might be pretty handy in the gym and pretty jacked individuals, just the shift in the mindset that has to take place because they're used to come out of a CrossFit environment, and the way they attack every workout is that default mode of maximum intensity, maximum effort. It just doesn't work underwater, and so it's a really humbling experience for a lot of people, and anything which gives you an opportunity to reflect on why things aren't working in a different environment can only be help you to grow more in terms of your human potential and your performance potential, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a huge carryover with this sort of stuff. Even you see it slightly with static apnea work and just general CO2 tolerance work. You can take someone who has reasonably bad anxiety to a state of being able to manage that a lot better by just showing them that it's okay to be in a position of stress as long as you're calm in the mind. And this is taking it to the next level with additional athleticism in there as well. But also, I love the fact that you talk about the humility of it. Taking a big guy and who has spent all his life being a high performer, and then you throw him into an arena where they're being shown, hey, look, this is different. You've got to act differently. You got to think differently. You got to be differently. That's a huge learning curve for many people, and I think that can carry over into having the willingness to step into that unknown again and just go into doing like trying something different and not being afraid to look a fool or look weak. I guess some people would term that as.
Yeah. And I've experienced that myself pretty much every week of every session because some of the guys who've joined the training group, they've really gone to another level. And if you start comparing yourself to other people, that's another surefire way to undermine your own performance. Once you start trying to say, well, Tim got that far, or Martin got that far on that length. If I don't get there, then this is going to look weak, or I'm going to look, and I'm supposed to be leading this session, and I don't want to. You've got to get past that position as a coach where you don't have to be the best in the group. Mm-hmm. It's more about drawing out the talent of others and being okay to have a bad day, and particularly if there's a toddler in the house who keeps you up half the night, and you possibly have one too many coffees in the morning, then forget about being the best in the pool that day.
I'm coming to in my training at the moment, I'm coming to the realization that I just haven't got the ability to handle the volume that I used to when I was 18, 19, 21. I'm not old, I'm 33, but there's definitely a big difference there. And being over here in Indonesia as well, my diet, the amount of food I'm eating is a lot less. I wanted to lose weight, but it's a lot less. But being the critical judge of yourself, trying to compare yourself to who you used to be or who you could be is a big. It's almost like you're creating a gap between the present, the past, and the future, and that's removing your ability. It could potentially lead to a story where you just degrading your immediate performance because of that. And I think also I was having a conversation with my partner yesterday, and she's starting a new business idea, and she instantly saying, but what happens if I'm not as successful as X, Y, and Z at it? Or, you know, what happens if it doesn't work out? And I'm like, why are you comparing yourself to someone who's not on your journey, number one, someone who's 10 years in front of you? Or why are you comparing yourself to anyone at all? Like, you know, what happens if your business is successful enough for you to enjoy it? It doesn't matter whether you're as good as the best in the world at it, does it? Like, it's your personal journey.
Yeah, you're getting to live your dream in that moment, and your current self is not where your future self may end up. You've got to give yourself a little bit of kindness and compassion sometimes, particularly if you're starting something new. That if you really what you're doing and you're invested in it, then just be patient. Results come.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I've also come to the realization this year with my own training, that I used to be very goal-driven and had to have an event, a marathon, or when it was football season was coming up. Okay, it's round one. We want to be doing time trials in this kind of time. So that was part of my mentality, and my personality was goals and focus. Whereas now I realise we're just playing the long game. Once we get the other side of 40, it's as long as you're having fun and you're getting better every day, then what's the rush?
Yeah.
And I think one of my mentors in the pool, who's been doing this for 17, 18 years, he said, we're going to be training like this for the next 30, 40 years. So what's your rush? Just enjoy it, and 1% better every day, and just keep work on refining your systems, and the results will come.
Yeah. So with this pool work sort of stuff, then how do you integrate that into, say, programming and a normal person? Let's say someone is training CrossFit a few times and then they have pool work. Are you like, how much outside of work versus in the pool work you do look at? Like, does it depend on the individual? Is it solely just a group thing that you're doing just to have a bit of fun and get them involved? Like, is there a methodology behind integrating that into your training?
It's very informal at the moment, and whenever we can get space in the pool is one of the big limiting factors. I'd love to be able to program pool training sessions 3-4 times a week, but logistically it's more challenging.
Yep.
So I see it at the moment as just a really good opportunity for whatever your training style is, or whatever your performance arena is. It's just an opportunity to take a break from that and apply yourself in a completely different environment.
Yep.
So we've got guys who are spear fishermen, or they're runners, or they're swimmers, or CrossFit athletes. So everyone comes with a different set of strengths and weaknesses, but you all just get the opportunity to just explore and play with it.
Yeah.
But what I guess one of the great things about the pool training and doing dynamic work and carries is there's very little cost on the body in terms of soreness, joints. You can do hundreds and hundreds of reps of something like a squat jump or a skater lunge off the bottom, holding weight, and you're not going to blow out your knees. So you can really fatigue the body and train good motor patterns as well, and get explosive. But you've got the support of that aquatic environment, and you're also getting a nice massage from the hydrostatic pressure on the lymphatic system and the vascular system. So you always come out feeling really tired.
Yeah, I was going to say,
have a nap.
Yeah,
but not broken, which is good.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important when you're, if you are integrating it for long-term and sustainability, that's that sort of stuff. If you've got people who are still want to work out at 40, 50, 55, 60 years old, it's great to be able to put them through something that's high intensity, yet not impactful. Cool. So
Absolutely, yeah.
So moving away from the pool training, I know that you also you do some workshops and ice baths and that sort of stuff with people as well. So with performance breathing, how have you been integrating, I guess, the breathing aspect into training, and what kind of changes are you trying to help people create?
Yeah, so essentially the workshops that I run are typically just a broad introduction to the world of performance breathing. So if we're thinking about the benefits and the approach that we take, it essentially comes down to learning to manage energy flows. So being able to create and use energy with the aerobic system, and managing your state. So your mental, emotional, physical state. So I try and give people just a really experiential, a little bit of oxygen advantage, a little bit of XPT, a little bit of dynamic movement, and just get them to feel hopefully something new and different, and learn to start to become more conscious of the way they're breathing, what effect it's having on their movement, what effect it's having on their state, and their ability to produce energy. And then typically the ice bath is what draws people in. Everyone wants to, but for me, whenever I write out my plan of what a session entails, it's like 95% of all the things I want to hit during the breathing and the training session, and then all right, ice bath finish. It's for me, it's just an opportunity to put yourself in a situation and use it as a testing ground, an opportunity to be as calm and controlled as possible, and approach that with a really good intention of control. And I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and the approaches aren't always, I think, as considered. I think a lot of people will approach it in quite a gung-ho way and think, you're going to feel amazing afterwards, and you've just got to get in there and do it, and you obviously get your breathing under control. But I love to see people, not spill a drop of water getting in and out, not, doing, rushing. It's a really, conscious decision, a commitment, to go in and move smooth and just take on board the challenge that's coming to you, and that instant arousal, that instant sympathetic nervous system activation, and just being cool with it and go, okay, now what am I going to deploy to keep myself and achieve what I want to achieve, which is spending 3-4 minutes in the freezing cold water. So I think I've rambled a little bit there. We're talking about the workshops and the ice baths and.
I've seen a similar thing to you in terms of, ice baths have become very popular, and I think the novelty sort of thing of it is one of the things that draws people in. The fear factor, or am I going to be able to do it? Like the challenge itself, and I've kind of noticed once people have done it a few times, they start to drop off from your workshops, and there's like, okay, well I've done that now, and people don't really want to commit long term to it, but you do see people diving into there and dunking themselves, and you're like, isn't this taking the point away of this is a controlled, stable kind of environment there? Like I really like to get people in the zone, like you, like just slowly put your feet in, enter as slow as you can, get all the way up to your necks, and try and keep yourself calm through. Like try not to allow that response to kick in, take control of it. And yes, some people can't because they're not able to, but then you're there to help them regulate. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are just doing it as it's a cool thing to do, but not really understanding the background of that sort of stuff. But there was something you touched on earlier that I wanted to delve into. And you're talking about how breathing and movement interplay with each other. And that's although I understand it, that you can't move properly if you can't really breathe properly, but that's as much as I've gone. Could you delve a bit more into, I guess, the concept of movement and breathing, how they interlink with each other?
Yeah, this is a new area that I'm really trying to peel back the layers on, because I don't think it's really taught, or I haven't come across anyone who is really a subject matter expert.
Well, what's your grasp on it then, I guess?
Yeah. So, obviously we breathe for a number of different reasons, for respiration, and as work demand increases, but also, we're stabilizing the spine, particularly under load. We're also generating power and force. You think about tennis players or martial artists. There's that powerful exhale on the moment of power. So that says to me there's an optimal. If you think about the four corners of breath being inhale, hold, exhale, and pause, there's an optimal corner for every activity. So whether it's producing the power and exhaling forcefully, or it's bracing in a position before creating the power. So inhale, hold, or bracing under load, inhale, hold. And then moving between those positions as well, and sequencing in the inhale at the most appropriate time, and then for performing fine motor skills or making decisions, that pause at the bottom. When you think about biathletes or archers or pistol shooters, they're all squeezing the trigger at that moment of pause at the bottom, and that's where we get the most stillness. So it's something I'm trying to codify, and every time I'm in the gym, I'm thinking about, okay, this movement now, what's the optimal pattern of breathing to match this, and at the same time meeting your metabolic demands.
Yeah.
So it's a real dance, and it's a real endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same place as you. It's consciously in my mind when I'm doing a movement where I'm like, okay, if I'm doing a thruster, should I be inhaling on the way down and exhaling on the way up? Like, am I able to keep that rhythm? Like, if I'm not able to keep that rhythm, like, should I go with my breath? Should I keep my mouth closed and let my nose dictate the pace that I'm moving? They're all things that I'm playing around with at the moment, and I think that's where there's the fine line again between, okay, well, I could probably move faster, but then I'm not going to be able to consciously control my breathing, or I might, I might have to start opening my mouth. And it's like, it's drawing at that level. And I guess the goal of your session is that you're trying to perform, you're trying to adapt. And are you just trying to keep a sustained level of fatigue? If you're doing an AMRAP of 24 minutes or something like that, and it's probably best to just go at conservative pace for the whole 24 minutes rather than go as hard as you can and die off. It's like, those are all considerations that we have to take, I guess, and that's where the movement and the breathing integrate together.
Yeah, and the intention of like you touched on the intention of the session, are you on the competition floor at the CrossFit Games and needing to completely max out and get the best possible time, optimize your performance, or are you building quality movement patterns and aerobic adaptation? Unless you have a strong intention and purpose behind whatever you're doing, then it's very difficult to match the approach to it after the fact.
For sure. Okay, let's delve a little bit into CO2 tolerance. This is something that I guess in your training, or the training that you're doing with people, what's the what is it that you're trying to do in developing CO2 tolerance? Like, there's some people who are looking at it and going, okay, this is going to be better for your performance. There's some people are talking about how it's going to be better for just state management. Where have you gone with that? And just delve into that a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think it's the benefits being, as you mentioned, learning to experience a little bit more stress and getting comfortable with that slightly icky feeling of higher CO2 translates into managing your state when things go pear-shaped in the office or on the road or wherever it is. But then, obviously the performance side of things, just getting people into a position where they understand what it feels like to produce the same results with less work and to stay aerobic at higher intensities. And because so many people train in a manner in their 1 hour a day where they're trying to go as hard as they can to succeed at the workout or win the workout, but you're just layering more stress on whatever you've got in the other parts of your day. So the objective shouldn't be to win the workout. And one of my favourite slogans, I think it was I first said it from Rob Wilson at the Art of Breath seminar, is are you adapting or are you just getting better at suffering? Because a lot of people just leave the adaptation on the table and just bear that suffering. And you see it a lot in the CrossFit world. And I don't want to sort of crap on CrossFit because it's been a big part of my life for the last decade. But that wearing the suffering like a badge of honour or as that shared bond with that community, I think it's ultimately detrimental. If you are constantly suffering and collapsing in a heap at the end of every workout, there's only so much of that you can take.
Yeah.
And whereas if you maybe back off a little bit, but work with good breathing mechanics and try and limit to nasal only breathing, and then notice that your performance gradually inches up and you walk out the door with a smile on your face and a spring in your step, then to me that's a lot more satisfying and a lot more, it's the long game of health and fitness. So getting people to realise that that's available to them with some breath control and building their tolerance to carbon dioxide. And for most people, it's just trying to stick with the nose at higher intensities. It doesn't have to be max out intervals on an exhale hold and feeling blue in the face. But if you want to go to that, then happy to take you there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the way I used to train when I was 19, 20 years old, when I was at university, and I'll be doing a leg session and I'll go to someone, tell me a number between 300 and 500. And they'd say a number. It's like, okay, well, that's how many reps I have to complete in the whole session. And then it would be like, okay, well, I'm going to start off with squat and I'm going to see how many reps I can do on like a 60 or 70 kg squat for one set, and just do that and just keep doing that set after set until I hit like 200-300, and then I'll do leg extensions and same. And it wasn't adaptation, because every week I wasn't progressing in terms of like overload, and like I wasn't allowing any pace dictate. It was literally just, okay, how much can I endure? And that resulted in me having screwed up hips, issues with like problems in my back and stuff like that. When I got to 25, 26, I could hardly walk because I was training like that all the time. And I see it over in Perth. There's a couple of personal trainers who are known to be like, they work you hard, and he gets a lot of females come in, and because they kind of like that excitement of like them on the floor, they're going to die at the end of the session, and it's like a bit again, it's a bit fearful, and it's like he's trying to get these into to do like bikini competitions and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is just not beneficial for them, let alone not having the hormonal base as a female to be able to do that like consistently without damaging some kind of their body or their menstrual cycle or something like that. And I think the grasp that I've got, and it's similarly what you're saying, is that if you keep your mouth closed, it's almost you're allowing your nervous system, which is at the core of your energy, to dictate how much input you can put into a session. And when you learn that, it's like, okay, well, now you can know your boundaries, and you can say, okay, well, next session, can I just push it that slight more? And then you look back to where you were 6-8 weeks ago, and you're like, okay, well, actually, I can do a lot more now with my mouth closed than I was. And that's when you know you've adapted to change rather than suffering.
And the subtle messages which your body is telling you as you're working, and I know you've touched on in previous conversations that concept of interoception, just being far more attuned to what little increases in output, how that what consequences you reap as for the engine or for the muscles. It allows you to dial in your understanding of what you're doing to yourself a lot faster and a lot more specifically. Whereas when you go, balls to the wall and just, try and muscle your way through every session, you don't develop that intuition around, where the boundaries lie between, here's aerobic and here's anaerobic, or, this is what I can maintain for X amount of minutes, or this is where I potentially might injure myself. So, it allows you to tune into yourself a lot better when you take that approach to training.
Yeah, there's an internal thing. I remember when I first started doing the shift adapt stuff, and I think I was doing some rowing, and it was maybe like 8 sets of 500 meters with a minute or two rest in between on the rower. And I remember when I hit like fourth or fifth, like I was trying to do it so that I was inhaling on the way of coming in and exhale on the push, and allowing my stroke rate to stay with my breath. And I found it, if I closed my eyes, it was like meditative. And what kind of happened was that the time period that I was, the number of meters that I had left on the clock was going a lot faster than it would if I was just staring at the clock. But then when I came to the point where I was starting to feel more fatigue in my legs, and I started to tell myself the story that, it's starting to hurt now, and I was opening my eyes more, time slowed down again. And it was kind of like really interesting again, having that internal awareness. It's almost like having that meditative part of it, where it's like, we're talking about interoception. It's being aware of the sensations in your body, what's going through your mind. That's a different approach to performance that we've never really seen before.
No, and you talk about closing the eyes, and visual stimulus has a huge part of and where you focus your vision, communicating to the nervous system about the states and your nervous system sort of dominance. Same with auditory as well. If you've ever tried doing a similar thing with not only eyes closed or eyes mask, and then put in something like a binaural beat, which drowns out any kind of auditory stimulus as well. Then tape your mouth shut, and do it on the assault bike sometimes. Yeah. And the first time I did it, I forgot to close the garage door. So I'm there on the bike with earphones in, eyes closed, mouth taped, trying to maintain a breathing cadence. I thought to myself, if anyone could just wander up the driveway here and you just pinch anything out of the garage. So maybe be aware of your surroundings before you start.
No, that's super interesting. So you actually fully, I saw that on social media a few days back. So you fully close off in terms of, like, you can't see anything, can't hear anything, mouth to, and you're just literally feeling the sensation of the breathing and the intensity in your body. Like, what sort of experiences that feel like? What's it? Do you start to see? Do you see visuals more, and do you see the story more of you creating?
Yeah, visuals, definitely. It's I found it quite uncomfortable the first time I did it mentally.
Yeah, I can imagine you would.
The first time I did it was a 20-minute effort, which can seem like a very long time with eyes closed and binaural beats, because you sort of lose that tether of where you are in time and space on the workout. Usually on your assault bike, you've got that clock ticking up, and you know what your wattage output is doing. But in tuning into those things, I guess you lose a little bit of ability to tune into the internal. And so I found the respiration rate and depth became so much more clear.
Yeah.
I was really aware of where it was. And then, trying to not succumb to the negative or the discomfort in mentally about, where are we? Are we at the 10-minute mark, or are we at are we still only at the 14-minute mark? And it's quite maintaining the same level of output and pushing consistently through that position of not knowing was quite a challenge.
Yeah, I found that, again, going back to just to keep having your eyes closed, the lesson that you learn of like being comfortable with not knowing, especially in terms of like when you start to feel that pain and like that starts creating those thoughts, okay, how long have I got left? But when you actually can't see, it's I guess a philosophical kind of message taken away. Is like getting comfortable with just not knowing, just sitting with pain and suffering despite not knowing, it's going to come to an end, but how long is it going to come to an end?
Yeah. I guess that's also similar to the way I approach the cold exposure.
Yep.
So whenever I'm coaching someone through that situation, I say, okay, the goal is 3 minutes. And if anyone ever says to me, how long to go? We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant for you. That's not going to help you. What's going to help you is tuning into your internal state, slowing your breathing. So, as cruel as it can be for some people by just keeping them hanging, I'll never tell them where we're up to.
It's good. I like that. I like the lesson. I like it. Cool. All right. So one last question that I ask everyone before we close up is, well, especially people that are obviously in the breathing spaces, I guess if you were to have someone that was just starting on their breathing journey, not a coach, but like an individual who wanted to start it, what advice would you give to them?
I think in the early days, I made the most progress, or the most leaps of awareness and understanding when I set aside a specific time without distraction and played. So I would highly recommend anyone who wants to start playing around with different cadences and timings, find music which works for you. And music is always a huge part of my workshop. And I've refined and cultivated a playlist over the years which matches really well with what we're trying to do. But it's different for everybody. And so use music, be consistent, play with it, and get comfortable with counting. And I think it's a simple thing to do to start off with. But if you get some conscious awareness of what my long extended inhale count usually feels like, counting through an inhale hold, counting through an exhale hold, you start to build a much stronger awareness of the nuances of it, because it is a really subtle thing. So something as simple as counting through all those phases will give you some conscious awareness of how you're tracking. Because it's something which you can't really see and touch, breathing. And it's a really internal dance with yourself. So using music and counting and being consistent are my 3 top tips.
I love that. I love that because I love music. I was a DJ for a fair few years, and I've been trying now to see how I can integrate music and breath work together. And the counting, something that I do is like maybe for the first 4 to 6 weeks when people are starting doing some breathing stuff with me, is like it would be a count, but then when I'm getting towards the end, it's like I want you to start using your intuition of the breath rather than the count, which goes with what you were saying. And consistency is the number one key for anything that you want to get some adaptation and get used to and have it create as a habit. So awesome, thanks, Rich. I guess the final comments from you is like, if people want to reach out to you to learn more, or if anyone wants to get in touch, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'm really good on the emails. So rich@performancebreathing.online is the go-to there. The website of the same domain, performancebreathing.online, tells you a bit about the approach we take and the fun we have with all the different modalities, or on social media, Rich J. Burrows on Instagram. I'm trying to be more active as much as, you know, it's a double-edged sword, the old socials. I'm trying to get more out there and sharing the experiments and the thought processes that go into what we do. So yeah, shoot me a message. Always happy to chat, answer questions, and yeah, I would obviously learn as much from the people that I engage with as vice versa. So the more people we connect to and the broader the conversation gets, the more we all win, I think.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Rich, and thank you all for tuning in.